In this video, I want to talk about dopamine. I'll discuss what it is, what it does, and how to naturally improve dopamine levels. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter created in the brain. Basically, it acts as a chemical messenger between neurons, and it's released when your brain is expecting a reward. When you begin to associate a certain activity with pleasure, dopamine levels increase even at the thought or anticipation of that particular activity. It could be eating your favourite food, having sex, buying or wearing some new clothes, or being rewarded for accomplishing something. Literally anything that delivers pleasure is controlled by dopamine in a cycle of motivation, reward, and the reinforcement of this cycle. It's because of this that dopamine is a necessary ingredient in the neurochemical recipe for good mood, motivation, and productivity. But it's also something that leaves our minds open to manipulation by certain substances and experiences, creating addiction and obsessive behavior when dopamine is overactivated. It works alongside serotonin, GABA, and glutamate, the other main neurotransmitters, to produce highly complex processes. And aside from dopamine's interaction with these other neurotransmitters, the behavioral impact of dopamine varies by subregion in the brain, making its effects even more difficult to succinctly describe. In the 2019 article titled "What Does Dopamine Mean?", the author expresses these complexities in relation to motivation, reward, and reinforcement or learning cycle, detailing how hard it has been so far for scientists to distinguish its exact effects and processes in regards to encouraging motivation and learning separately. The author of this article summarized an adequate description of dopamine would explain how dopamine can signal both learning and motivation on the same fast timescales without confusion. It would explain why dopamine release in key targets co-varies with reward expectation, even though dopamine cell firing does not. And it will provide a unified computational account of dopamine actions throughout striatum and elsewhere, which explains disparate behavioral effects on movement, cognition, and timing. On a very high level, and almost sidestepping the mind-numbing complexities of this and other neurotransmitters, dopamine is best described as a chemical messenger that uses pleasure to guide future behavior. But it also plays a significant role in the feeling of pleasure itself. So if dopamine controls the level of pleasure we perceive when taking part in a pleasurable activity, how do we increase our dopamine levels to enhance this feeling of pleasure? There are certain supplements and lifestyle changes that you can introduce in order to boost dopamine levels naturally and therefore enhance feelings of pleasure. So let's take a closer look at the lifestyle changes you can make first. Number 1, sleep. Sleep helps to regulate the normal dopamine release cycle, and lack of sleep not only disrupts your cycle, but can significantly inhibit dopamine receptors, which leads to reduced concentration and alertness. A 2012 study titled "Evidence that Sleep Deprivation Downregulates Dopamine D2R in Ventral Striatum in the Human Brain" confirmed that dopamine receptors were significantly less effective following a night of reduced sleep. This can be helpful as it makes it easier for you to fall asleep following a shortfall the night before. However, it's not that great for productivity prior to falling asleep. Number 2, music. A 2011 study titled "Anatomically Distinct Dopamine Release During Anticipation and Experience of Peak Emotion to Music" showed that listening to music can increase dopamine levels by up to 9%. It describes music as an abstract stimuli that can arouse feelings of euphoria and craving, similar to tangible rewards that involve the striatal dopaminergic system. Number 3, sunlight. In a 2011 study titled "Sunshine Exposure Variation of Human Striatal Dopamine D2-D3 Receptor Availability in Healthy Volunteers," they took 68 healthy adults and found that striatal dopamine D2 and D3 receptor availability was significantly greater in the subjects with high sunshine exposure than those with low sunshine exposure. In addition to this, another 2016 study found, due to the increased dopamine release in response to mimic sunlight exposure from tanning beds, that sunbeds can be highly addictive. Obviously, if you're looking to increase dopamine levels through increased sunlight exposure, you do need to be responsible and wear sufficient sunscreen. Number 4, exercise. The most significant human study that I could find with regards to exercise's effects on dopamine release was a 2013 study titled Treadmill Exercise Elevates Striatal Dopamine D2 Receptor Binding Potential in Patients with Early Parkinson's Disease. This was a very small scale study of just 4 participants with Parkinson's disease that concluded participating in regular intense cardio exercise significantly improved their motor control. To give this context in regards to dopamine, Parkinson's disease is a disease where low dopamine levels disrupt the brain's ability to control body movements. So a study showing that a marked improvement in motor control intimates that the activity they're partaking in this case intense exercise, is improving dopamine levels and/or receptors. Now, on to supplement and dietary changes that can lead to increased dopamine levels. Number 1. L-tyrosine. Tyrosine is an amino acid commonly found in protein-rich foods like turkey, beef, eggs, dairy and soy. Studies show that extremely high doses of tyrosine and a tyrosine precursor, phenylalanine, can lead to a notable improvement in dopamine levels. A 2015 study titled Food for Creativity, Tyrosine Promotes Deep Thinking, found that tyrosine leads to improved cognition and particularly improves deep thinking, so thinking in depth on a singular subject of focus. Number 2, probiotics. The gut actually has more of a bearing on your mind than you might think. Increasing evidence shows changes in gut microbiota composition in association with psychiatric disorders including anxiety and depression. Moreover, it's been reported that perturbations in gut microbe diversity and richness influence serotonergic, GABAergic, noradrenergic, and dopaminergic neurotransmission. In the 2019 study, Do Your Gut Microbes Affect Your Brain Dopamine?, it concludes that probiotics do have a definite, albeit still somewhat unclear and sparsely studied, link to dopamine production. The probiotic strain L. plantarum is of particular interest when it comes to serotonin and dopamine levels. Studies performed in mice have shown this strain to significantly increase both dopamine and serotonin levels. At vitalifehealth.com we offer a health aid supplement called Mood Pro Bio, which offers a specifically formulated combination of probiotics known for their effects on improving neurotransmitter levels, which includes L. plantarum. The link to this product can be found in the description of this video below. So there you have it. I hope you found this video helpful and it provided more information on what dopamine is, what it does and what you can do to increase your dopamine levels naturally. Please go ahead and subscribe by clicking on the button below this video, and when you do, remember to also hit the bell symbol afterwards so you receive notifications of new health and wellness videos that we post. Thanks for watching.